I'm pumped to be back to you guys today. Hopefully you've enjoyed so far today. We've been over-delivering every single step. That's always the goal. Hopefully we've been over-delivering for you guys. We talked a lot about, obviously, figuring out subconscious success. We talked about your offer. Now we're going to be going to the next phase, which is going deep into your story, which is going to be a lot of fun. Now, again, before we get started, you guys know the game plan. Go to hangoutwithrussell.com, and over there, you're going to be dropping in all the big ahas. During the break, I was reading all the ahas from you guys, and it means the world to me. Again, nothing fires me up more than giving you guys the ahas. I still remember the very first time I learned this stuff, as I was discovering it, it was like the coolest thing in the world. And the only thing cooler than that is like when I give you the ahas and I see them coming back, I'm like, yes, they're getting it. It's like the best feeling in the world. So we're going to pull up really quick, hangoutwithrussell.com. It'll take you back to this page right here. Again, right now we're in session number 3, subconscious selling secrets. This is where we're going to be posting the comments, the feedback, the ahas. Everyone, the more in here we got, the more excited I'm going to be, the more value I'll be bringing as we keep going. So go to hangoutwithrussell.com. And as I go live today, that's going to be posting everything you got from the ahas from this session, which should be a lot of fun. Okay, so session number 3 now, we're diving into what's called subconscious story selling, okay? If you look back about the 4 levels of value I talked about with Myron earlier, right? The last session, creating your own offer, is about imagination. How do we imagine something that we can create, that we can use to change the life of somebody we've been called to serve, right? Creating an offer. And now this session, we're gonna be moving to level 3, which is about communication. How do we use our mouth to make money? By selling the things we imagine. Like this is the 2 highest levels of value, right? You guys now know how to use your imagination to create offers. Now we're using our mouth to communicate, to actually sell those offers. And this session, I'm really excited for. So again, I told you guys before, hook, story, offer. The last session we focused on offer. Now we're gonna move back one step in the framework, and this session is all about story, okay? Again, if you look at the framework as a whole, hook is the way we grab someone's attention to stop them in their tracks, right? It's like, again, I was pictured on their phone, they're scrolling, and hook is the thing that grabs their attention just long enough, you can tell them the story, right? And then you tell them the story, and the goal of the story is to increase the perceived value of the thing you're gonna offer them, right? Before lunch, we watched the $1 million offer, right? I showed you guys the hook. I got $1 million offer for you. I told you the story, and then from the story, I made the offer, okay? So today, this session right now, we're gonna be focusing on story. How do you tell your story in a way that gets people to move and gets people to buy? Now, do you remember during session number 1, I told you the only thing between you and your goals is your brain, okay? This paradigm is very similar, okay? But this one is the only thing keeping your customers from buying your price, from you actually changing their lives, is also their brains. So we're gonna come back to this metaphor of the mind that we started earlier today, because this is gonna be the key to what I call subconscious selling. How do you use story in a way that's gonna get people to actually move, right? So again, when I'm speaking on stage, I'm having a conscious conversation with your monkeys, with logic and emotion, right? I'm having this conscious conversation with them, but the real goal, what I'm actually doing, is you're gonna find out during a session, is I'm telling stories in a way that's gonna be taking the false beliefs inside someone's mind and rewriting those false beliefs and replacing with empowering beliefs that gets people to, first off, be willing to go buy the products and services you have, number 1. But number 2, they're more likely to actually have success when they buy from you because these false beliefs that have been holding back will disappear. And the last step in this process is we're gonna be turning off fear so that way they have the ability to move forward. Okay. Now I'm going to take you guys to a very cool location. I showed you guys a clip from this earlier. This is one of our funnel hacking lives, a private one we did where we were streaming it to the world on these LED walls. But in the room, my inner circle, everyone who spends between $50,000 a year and $250,000 a year, we're sitting in the room. And what I do is I want to transport you into that room. I want you to pretend like you just wrote me a check for $50,000 and you're sitting in this room. And this is going to be part number 2 of the presentation. Again, earlier I talked about subconscious success. Now we're going to talk about subconscious selling and how this metaphor of the mind works to get your customers and your clients to move. So that said, I'm going to transport you guys into the middle of Funnel Hacking Live. So again, the subconscious mind, it speaks in stories. So we have to learn how to tell stories, because when I tell a story, I'm bypassing your conscious mind. I'm speaking directly to this guy right here. Now this guy right here, he knows a lot of stories. He's been hearing stories for your entire life, and he remembers these stories, and they're stored in here. So what happens is a situation comes up in your life, and he's like, I have a story for that. Boom, it finds the closest story that it knows that it believes is true, and it plugs in that story. So something comes, she's like, hey, here's the thing, you can win it. You should go after, start a business, win a 2 Column Club award. It's like, what story do I have? Nope, he tried a business 3 years ago, it failed, he looked like an idiot, right? He warned me, I was gonna try it, I wasn't gonna be good enough, and he was right, I failed, I'm not good enough, people didn't love me, I took that story, so it pops the story, boom, here's a story, like, consciously I wanna do it, but there's a story that it doesn't work for me, right? Every time I introduce a topic to you guys, your subconscious mind is finding a story, it's grabbing it and plugging it in, right? Without you even knowing it, it's happening so fast, and you have a feeling, and that feeling is either positive or negative, sick to your stomach, excited, whatever that thing is, and it's keeping you from going where you're gonna go. That is the game. Okay, so the subconscious speaks in stories. So first thing we want to talk about is how do you tell stories. Now, most of you guys, if you've been following me for the last decade, you've heard me tell this, but I'm going to lead with this because we need it foundational for everything else we're going to be doing, is how do you actually tell stories, okay? This is what most people do. They're right here. This is them. This is you, actually. Let me come back. This is you guys. How many of you guys remember back when you were normal? Any memory of that? Long time ago, before you came into this world and drank the Kool-Aid and went all crazy, right? And thought you could change the world, okay? Back in the day, most people come in and they're kind of like, they're a normal person, right? And then something happens to them. They have some experience, and that experience gives them an epiphany of like, oh my gosh, this is this crazy thing. I want to pursue this thing, and I want to try something different, right? And you have this epiphany. Now, before I draw this whole thing, I actually want to tell the story about how this whole thing kind of came about. So there's a company that launched 1 year after ClickFunnels, one of my friend's companies called Prove It. Anyone ever heard of Prove It? Okay, it's the first company came out selling ketones, which is this drink you drink, helps you lose weight and have energy. And I helped them write the very first sales video for that company and that brand. And I remember Brian, who owns the company, after they were starting to grow, it was like a year into the company, he's like, hey, would you be willing to come to one of our events and speak to the leadership team? I was like, sure, I'd love to. So I fly to this hotel, we get in the hotel, I'm checking in, got my suitcase, I'm checking in at the front desk, and I look over and there's like the whole lobby out there, In the lobby, there's two types of people. There's these unsuspecting poor people who have no idea what's about to happen, and they're just walking through the lobby, all just normal humans. And then there are all the people inside of Prove It. Now, all of them, they're Prove It because they're all wearing spandex, because that's what weight loss people do, so they can flex. All wearing spandex, all have t-shirts that says, ketones are greater than glucose, and they're so excited, they're running around like a million miles a minute. They just got done doing push-ups, and they're like, ah, and they're walking around the lobby, and they're looking at these normal people walk through, and they're like, this is like fresh meat. And they jump on them, and they start like grabbing these people, and they yell at them like, hey, do you want to lose some weight? Do you want to learn, is your body running on glucose right now? Did you know, blah, blah? And they start like spewing all this stuff at them. I'm watching this happening as I'm checking the hotel, watching. I'm like, this is a nightmare. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, this is how people think you're supposed to sell? Anyway, I just watched this whole thing happen. I'm like, oh, so embarrassing. So then I go check in the hotel. I go find Brian. I was like, hey, man, so what time's the event? He's like, oh, it's happening right now. I'm like, okay, what time am I on? And he looks at his watch. He's like, oh, crap. He's like, you're on right now. I was like, well, what? Like right now? He's like, yeah, the leadership team's meeting. I didn't realize, like, we're on right now. I'm like, well, what do you want me to talk about? He's like, whatever you want. He's like, come on, let's go. So like, we're running down the hallway. We're like going through the back of the hotel, back where the chefs are cooking the food, running around. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? We come in this room, we open the door, and there's 150 people who are like the leadership team of Prove It, all the best money earners. They're all in spandex, the whole entire audience. I walk in, and then Brian runs on stage, and now I want to use Russell Brunson. And I'm walking down this hallway, looking at all these people. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And I stand up on stage, and I look out, and I see the sea of spandex, and I was like, okay. And then I start seeing the people that were in the lobby. I'm like, oh, there's that guy. I'm like, you guys. Anyway, so I'm looking at everybody in the sea. And I remember asking, I was like, I'm curious. I'm like, how many of you guys got into Prove It because you love the fact that beta-hydroxybutyrate salts are really, really good for you. They help you lose weight, da, da, da. No one's hands went up. I'm like, how many of you guys got excited about Prove It initially because you thought that glucose is worse than ketones? Ketones are way better than glucose. How many of you guys there? No one's hand went up. And I started dropping all these other like techno-babble things. And I was like, because I was in the hallway about an hour and a half ago, and that's how you guys were all pitching those people, those poor people in the audience that are walking through the lobby. That's how you were all pitching them. I was like, you have to understand, if you want to persuade someone and sell someone, you don't try to spew facts upon them. That does not work ever. Okay? You have to go back in time and remember, what was the thing that you experienced to put you on this journey? I said, and that's my question. I'm like, what do you guys like? What was the reason why you got excited about Prove It? And one lady raised her hand, and she's like, I drank it. It was really good, first off. It tasted like candy. And she's like, I lost 35 pounds in the last year. I was like, oh, why didn't you tell them that story? She's like, well, I thought they wanted some facts, so I told them the facts. I'm like, oh, how about you? And like they told me their story. Every single person had a story about why they were so excited and why they were wearing spandex, right? They all had a story. I said, this is the key, okay? We keep thinking that the reason people are gonna buy is because we're gonna logically convince them. People do not buy things logically, okay? You think you're in charge, logic, it's not you. No, they don't buy because of this guy. They buy because of this, right? People buy, they justify things logically, they're buying emotionally, but it's coming back to here, right? So, the Epiphany Bridge story. So you're a normal person, you had some experience, right? And you sent you on this journey, right? You had this epiphany. Something happened. For me, with funnels, it was like I had my potato gun, I put it out there in the world, people started buying it, then it stopped working, and then I put an upsell, it changed everything, people started buying it, I had this epiphany, like, this is amazing, this is a funnel. And I started doing a whole bunch of stuff, like I had this epiphany, right? So you go on this epiphany journey, and what happens after you go on the journey, then you come over here, and then you get so excited about the topic, you want to know everything about it. You start studying and learning and geeking out, and you get the worst thing possible. Okay, this is the motion over here. You have this emotional experience. You start getting logic, all these logical arguments, right? And you start taking these things, and you start storing all the facts and the figures and all sorts of stuff. And then when you see a prospect walking by, you get so excited that you spew out all the logical arguments because you think that's what people need to buy. But it's not how you bought. right? We call this technobabble. Okay? And so what we gotta do is let's kill technobabble. If you wanna persuade someone, you have to remember what was the emotional experience you went through. You have to go back in time and remember what was the thing that you experienced that gave you that change. This is the story you tell someone. Okay? You tell them the story, and you tell it in a way that gets them to have the exact same epiphany that you had. You don't just tell them, here's a story. You don't just tell them a quick story. Like, yeah, I had a story like, I had a website, wasn't making enough money, and then I put an upsell in, and then people bought, so I love funnels. Like, that's not a story. You tell a story in a way that emotionally connects people with you so that they have the same epiphany that you had. I'm not telling them my epiphany, I'm telling my story, and then they have their own epiphany. That's how you tell a story, right? And then after they have their own epiphany, then they'll go on this journey by themselves, and they'll logically convince themselves, they'll do the study and the facts and the figures, all sorts of stuff, okay? But your job is just to tell a story in a way that they have the actual epiphany. Okay, a good example of that is Funnel Hacking Live number 2, San Diego. Marcus Lemonis comes in, we're so excited, like the prophet from TV, it's our first keynote we ever had. He comes in, I'm so excited, and we had 30 minutes with him before he went on stage. And he walks in the room with us, with me and like Todd and a couple of us back there, and he's like, why is everyone so excited out there? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I thought this was like a website building conference. I was expecting a bunch of nerds and things, and like there's people like freaking out. There's people tattooed your logo. Like, why are they so excited? I was like, oh, because the funnels. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. What is a funnel? And so instantly I did what all good salesmen do, and I started explaining to him how funnels out-convert websites and talk about how upsell rates and take rate, all sorts of stuff. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Why do I believe in funnels? Came back, and I started telling Marcus a story about funnels and how I started, how I was an entrepreneur, I was struggling, and I switched to funnels, and how it changed everything, and how much more money I was making, but all that kind of stuff. I tell him the story. He's like, whoa. He's like, well, how would you use a funnel for this? And I explained. How would you use a funnel for this? I explained. And all of a sudden, he said the coolest thing. He's like, wow, every business needs a funnel. Oh, he had the epiphany. I know, Marcus, every business needs a funnel. I'm like, why? I tell the story. He has the epiphany. Oh, every business needs a funnel. Okay? He speaks Funnel Hacking Live, jumps in a car. A week later, calls me on the phone. Hey, you want to be on the Prophet? Like, yeah. Why? Every business needs a funnel. Oh, he had the epiphany. He went and geeked out. He figured out. He technobabble sold himself. Okay, but it starts from there. That's the power of storytelling. Okay, it bypasses the monkeys, goes directly to the subconscious mind. All right. Okay, so that's the Epiphany Bridge story. There's the version, emotion, Epiphany Bridge. We had technobabble. We get rid of it. Okay. All right. Next paradigm shift. Paradigm shift number 2, you cannot sell anyone if their subconscious mind disagrees with you. If this elephant does not agree with you, they will not buy. They may buy initially, but they're not going to follow the program. They're going to cancel. They're your refunders, the people who don't actually get to the end, okay? Because the conscious mind may convince them and may overpower them. We're going to sign up for the thing, but they sign up for your thing. They're the ones who, like, the event ends, they're all excited, they're on fire, they drink the Kool-Aid, and then within a week, they cancel, they refund the thing, they come back because their subconscious mind's like, nope, like, that was nice, you thought we were gonna go over there, but we're not going over there. We're coming back over here. We're getting back to our normal patterns, right? So that's what normally happens. And so we have to get their subconscious mind to agree with us. We have to get the subconscious mind, we have to rewrite the story so the subconscious mind actually believes what we're telling people, okay? By doing this, it frees them, it helps them to actually have success because they're no longer stuck with these old beliefs. So let me show you guys how this works. To set this whole thing up, I needed to bring Jim and Pam into the equation. How many of you guys are Office fans? Okay, so this is a clip from The Office of Michael Scott pitching these guys on a network marketing opportunity. I'm gonna show this really quick because it helps set up the next story I wanna share with you guys. So here is Michael Scott pitching them on an MLM. Okay, all right. So this is where the whole storytelling part actually starts with, okay? When you're talking to a customer, the first thing you have to understand, let me go back one, is that they already have these chains of false belief. About whatever you're offering someone, they have these chains of false belief. Okay, these chains of false belief are the subconscious stories, hypnotic rhythm, the things that are already here inside their body, right? The things they already believe. Okay, so I'm going to be telling somebody a story, and I'm trying to persuade them. The first thing I have to understand is like, what is the chain of false belief they have? Okay, so they have this false belief. The second question after I have like, what's the false belief? Like, the false belief they have is that this is not going to work. Why do they have that belief, right? Something happened in their life that created that experience, right? They got beat up for some reason. They tried something, it didn't work, and so because of that, they had this experience that the subconscious mind keeps bringing back, like, oh, fill in the blank. You can't do that because here's the experience that happened. And so they have their own story, okay? Subconscious mind will give you back the story. This is why you can't be successful thing. This is the story that's happening, okay? So our job, if we're gonna be successful then, is we have to figure out what's the story the subconscious mind is giving them that's hurting them, that's holding them back, that's keeping them from success. And I have to tell a better story. And if I tell a better story, it'll trump their story, right? It'll rewrite the story inside the subconscious mind, and now they're free to move, to change, and to actually take action, okay? So in the example, here's a picture. This is kind of funny. Devon and I were talking, one Funnel Hacking Live, we had a speaker not show up, and we had to burn like 15 minutes, and he gets on stage, and he's like, hey, Russell, come on up, we're gonna make up a secret handshake. And so we did this whole secret handshake on stage, and this is a picture from that. We should probably bring that back, Devon, and like actually remember our secret handshake. Anyway, so he brings it on stage. I'm illustrating this picture because let's make believe that Devon was on stage. Instead of doing a secret handshake with me, he's like, hey, Russell, I just joined this new network marketing opportunity. It's amazing. If you sign up, we'll make a bunch of money. I'm like, this is amazing. So boom, I shake Devon's hand. We decide to sign up. I join the program, and now I got to go and tell other people. So first thing I do is I'm going to talk to my friends, Pam and Jim, because if I can get them in and they get their friends in, I'm going to be rich. It's going to be amazing, right? So I go to Pam and Jim, and the first thing I have to understand is that Jim already has a false belief about this, right? He's got a false belief. So the chain of false belief is he believes that if he joins a network marketing program, a pyramid scheme, right? If he's going to go and join one of these things, that he will lose all of his friends. That is the belief that he has. Subconsciously, if I join a network marketing program, I will lose all my friends. Okay? That's the false belief he has. Now, why does he have that false belief? At one period in his life, either he joined network marketing opportunity and he called all his friends and they were offended, or one of his people like Michael Scott, who was one of his friends, came and joined network marketing opportunity and started annoying him and bugging him. He's like, this is the worst. Like, if you're someone who joins network marketing, right, they're gonna, by doing that, I lose my friends and my family. So the chain of false belief, I lose my friends and my family because of an experience that happened to me. So because of that, he has a story. So his story now is all network marketing opportunities are pyramid schemes, okay? Now, if I go to Jim, it doesn't matter what I say, how convincing I am, how great I am at sharing the logic, whatever it is. If I go to him and I say, hey, Jim, you need to join things, the best thing in the world, makes the most amount of money. I share all this stuff with him. He will not ever say yes because the subconscious mind has a story. And the second someone says network marketing, this story is delivered up on a silver platter, handed to him. He's like, nope, sorry, this is my story because this experience, and I have this chain of false belief, I will not move forward, okay? Now, for me, if I want to convince Jim, I can't do it by selling or anything else. What I got to do is I figure out what story do I have that'll trump the story that's currently in his subconscious mind. And if I tell that story in a way where he has the epiphany himself, boom, it'll take the story that's there right now, it'll delete it, and it'll replace it with a new story. Does that make sense? So I come to Jim, I said, Jim, this is awesome. I was just like you. I joined a network marketing program one time. I called my friends, my family members, my mom, and everyone. And really quickly, my mom stopped calling me back. My dad changed his number, and I lost my parents. I canceled. I called them back up. I was able to get in good graces with them again, but it was really bad. Then I had this friend. He kept calling me. It was like the worst thing ever. And I believed the exact same thing, that if I was to join network marketing opportunity, I would lose all my friends and my family. But then something crazy happened. I met this guy, and he does network marketing, but this is completely different. He doesn't talk to any friends and family. What he does, he puts up a website, and the website says, who here is interested in learning how to make money from home? And then what he does, he drives traffic from the internet on Facebook, Google, Instagram. And people come to this page. They say, do you want to learn how to make money from home? They fill out a form, and it sends them an email with all their contact information. So he doesn't know these people first off, and then the only people he actually calls are people who literally said, I'm interested in you selling me on a network marketing opportunity. Then he calls them on the phone, and he sells them. And I thought that was insane, so I thought, what if I did that? So I set up a landing page just to test it out on the side. I drove some traffic to a page, and I started making sales, and more sales, and more sales, to the point I became the #1 money earner in a company, and I won this beautiful red Ferrari. Is that crazy? And Jim all of a sudden is like, wait a minute, are you saying, he has the epiphany, you saying I could actually have the money from network marketing, which I do want, without having to like lose my friends and my family members? Like, yeah, that's happened to me. I won a Ferrari. He's like, oh my gosh. All of a sudden, false belief disappears, boom, new belief reappears. Now he has a story, which is my story. He replaces my story, and now he believes, now he can move forward. Now I can persuade him, I can influence him, and boom, if my story trumps Jim's story, it replaces inside the subconscious mind, and now I can help him to be successful, okay? That is the game we're playing here, you guys. Do you understand that? Okay. How many guys with ahas going off in your head? You're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? How many of us thinking about all the stories I've told you guys over the last couple hours, right? And thinking like, what was the false belief Russell was trying to overcome by telling me that story? Yeah, it's fun to tell stories. We can connect emotionally, but the real reason, because I know there's false beliefs that are going to keep you guys back from being successful, and so I'm telling stories in a way to rewrite those false beliefs. That's the big secret. That's the big aha. The first time I ever understood this when it came to selling, I had a friend, and he created a product called Make Your Own Software, and this was a software product that he was selling for $297. And I'm rewinding back. This is almost 20 years ago, right? And I remember at the time, what I was doing to make money is I was doing teleseminar. So what happened is I would do this teleseminar, and on the teleseminar, I'd jump on, I'd interview my guest for like 50 minutes. In the end, he'd make an offer in the last 10 minutes, right? So that's how we were making money. So I was doing teleseminars every week or so, different authors and different people that were selling things. And this guy, Mike Chen, called me up. He's like, I have this new product called Make Your Own Software. It's crushing it. He's like, will you interview me on a teleseminar? I'm like, sure, I'd love to. So I promoted the teleseminar. We got a whole bunch of people signed up for it. And the day before I went live with him, he called me on the phone and said, hey, can I show you something really quick before we do the teleseminar? I'm sure. He said, okay. He said, when you're doing the teleseminar, during the first 50 minutes, when you're asking me questions, you can ask me any question you want, it doesn't matter. He's like, what I found is that every single time I get to the close or I'm trying to make the offer, there are a couple concerns people have that always come up. And so I found that by going back to the actual content of the training, he's like, if you ask me a certain question where I can then break that false belief during the content, then the problem doesn't ever show up in the actual offer, okay? I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. He said, one of the biggest false beliefs people have is they think that this product is too expensive. It's $297 for the software that makes software. He's like, all I need you to do is somewhere in the content of the training, ask me this question. He said, come to me and say, hey, Mike, this looks really cool, but I'm curious. The first time I tried to hire somebody to build software, most software developers are charging me $300 or $400 an hour, right? My first product I ever created cost me $5,000 to create one single product. Why in the world is your product, Make Your Own Software, so inexpensive? Why is it only $297? He said, if you ask that question, then when we get to the close of the end, no one's going to have the concern that it's too overpriced. I said, okay. So we got on the teleseminar. I'm going there, I'm asking some questions, everything. All of a sudden, I dropped the question. Hey, Mike, like, this is really, really cool, this software, but I'm curious, why did you make it so inexpensive? If you're trying to hire a programmer, sometimes it's $300 an hour, and the entire product you have is just $300. They can create as much software as they want with it. Why is it so cheap? And Mike explained why it's so cheap, why he did that way. And also that concern just disappeared. By the time we got to the close, there wasn't a single person that said, this seems really expensive. Everyone's like, wow, that like $297 seems cheap, right? And so he told me that. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the key, right? The secret to being successful is figuring out what are the false beliefs people have, right? During the content of the training, you're telling stories to break those false beliefs. So when you get to the spot where you're supposed to make the offer, those things are no longer there. Does that make sense? That's the game, okay? Now, one of the things that I want to have you guys do, and this is something to start thinking through, is your job is to start building an inventory of stories, okay? People always ask me, Russell, how are you so good at telling stories? Like, I did this exercise I'm telling you to do. What I did is I sat down and said, okay, for somebody to buy my product, my service, like, what are all the false beliefs they had? I made a list, like, hey, first false belief is this going to be too expensive. They're not going to have time. They're not going to be smart enough. They're not going to be good enough. I said all the false beliefs, okay? Then the next column, I said, okay, with each of these false beliefs, what was the experience they went through that made them have that false belief? Okay, there was this experience and probably this. I'm just imagining all the experiences that they went through that gave them the false belief. Then I came back to the third column. Okay, what story do they have in their head right now that is that the experience created, right? This causes false beliefs. So here's the story. I listed out all the stories. And I said, okay, now what story do I have that will trump their false belief? And I listed out those. And I made this whole chart. So I'm going to sell somebody something. I'm doing a webinar or a challenge or something where I'm trying to sell in the future. One of my very first things, like, what are all the false beliefs I got to overcome? And then in the content, I'm weaving in stories to break those false beliefs. When I get to the spot or make them the offer, that those false beliefs have been shattered. And now that person can actually move forward and buy the product or service from me, right? And that's the big secret. That's the big aha, okay? Now, I have a question for you guys. How many want to see what I call my copy-paste closes? These are closes that I use in all my presentations because I know these are some of the core false beliefs that people have. How many of you guys want to see me do some of these copy-paste closes live right now? If you do, let me know, Okay, what I'm going to do, and these are all copy-paste closes that you guys can use and you can model. And so I'm going to show them to you guys so you can learn and see exactly how you can use them inside your presentations, okay? Now, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to import you guys back into Funnel Hacking Live, and I'm going to have you, because I did these in character, where I would explain it and I'd break the fourth wall, or I would do it and I'd break the fourth wall, explain it, and come back and forth. It was really fun. So we're going to you guys to watch this. So once again, imagine you wrote me a check for $50,000. You were in the front row right now at Funnel Hacking Live inside this experience. And I'm going to show you guys my copy-paste closes. Check these out. First one. So this is the false belief a lot of your customers have, a lot of my customers have, is that they get to the offer and you're like, hey, it's going to cost $25,000 or $50,000. And your customer's like, oh, I can't afford that. Okay, if I know that's coming, one of my favorite false belief story closes that I use earlier in the content of my training is the Rich Dad Poor Dad close. Okay, so I'm going to go into character. I'm going to become Russell. I'm going to do the Rich Dad Poor Dad close. Okay, all right. How many of you guys read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? Okay. When I first read the book, it was crazy because I was young. My wife and I just got married. My dad gave me that book, and I remember it sat on my shelf for like 3 or 4 months, and I'm not a reader, so I didn't read it. And then eventually, one night I couldn't fall asleep, so I grabbed the book. I started reading it. I read the entire Rich Dad Poor Dad in one night. I was like, this is insane. And I read the book, and I remember there's something that Robert Kiyosaki said that changed my life forever. okay? He said, and if you read the book, he talks about his rich dad and his poor dad. So he's got two different dads. One was rich, one was poor. And he said because he had a chance to see how rich people thought and poor people thought, he said it's really fascinating. He's like, poor people look at something that they really, really want. They see that thing like, oh, that's really cool. I wish I could afford that. I can't afford that. He's now rich people. They look at the exact same thing. And instead of saying, I can't afford that, they look at that thing and say, how can I afford that? And what happens when you say, how can I afford that? All of a sudden your mind starts shifting, starts thinking, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And it changes everything, right? So anytime I have a situation in my life where I look at something and I know it's more expensive than I have, like I want a new house, I want a new car, I want to invest in a training program, whatever, and I can't afford it, I don't look at that and say, oh, I can't afford that. Instantly I stop, okay, cool, how can I afford that? And I start thinking, it opens up my mind. In fact, the very first time I wanted to get a training program, I remember it was a $1,000 course. It was my very first internet marketing course ever. And I remember my wife and I, we were broke as a joke. We had no money, and I remember I needed to invest in this thing. It was $1,000. I didn't have $1,000. So what I did instead to actually pay for it is I was like, how can I afford that? How can I afford that? Luckily, I just started rich dad poor dad. How can I afford that? How can I afford that? I started thinking. All of a sudden, I was like, looked outside, and there were leaves falling on the ground. I was like, there's leaves outside. What if I go and get a rake and I rake up some leaves and people give me money for raking up leaves? I was like, that'd be amazing. So I bought a tarp, bought a rake, wanted to knock on the door. Hey, can I rake your leaves? Cool. And I raked the guy's leaves, took them out, threw them away. Guy gave me $100. I'm like, I'm 1/10 of the way there. Knocked on the door. Hey, can I rake up your leaves? Boom. Had knocked next door, knocked on the door. And within 10 lawns, I had $1,000, bought the course, changed my life. It all came because I didn't think, I can't afford that. I said, how can I afford that? That little shift changed everything. So when you are looking at anything you want in life, you cannot think like a broke person. If you think of a broke person, you're gonna be broke forever. You never look at something and say, I can't afford that. You look at something and say, how can I afford that? How can I afford that? It'll change everything. In fact, I had a student who came to our program, okay? And they wanted to buy, it was a certification program certifying people on how to actually be a funnel builder. And they came in and they found the price point, and it was really expensive, high 5 figures for this price point. They're like, I can't afford that. And then instantly they stopped and said, wait, how can I afford that? And they realized, well, I can't afford to buy this program right now, but if I buy the program, I can help other people. What if I went to somebody who I could build a funnel for and said, hey, I don't have money to buy this thing, but if you will invest for me, I'll build your funnels for free, I'll have the ability to learn skill set, and then I'll go do the thing. So they had somebody else buy it for them. They then started working for that person for free to pay it back, and then they got the skill set, and after that, they were able to use that to make a whole bunch of money afterwards, okay? So it all comes down to understanding. We're learning from rich dad, poor dad, okay? Don't think like a poor person, think like someone who's rich. Never say, I can't afford that. Always say, how can I afford that? Boom. You guys got that? Then what happens 40 minutes later, 2 days later, whenever it happens later, when it gets to the spot and they're like, you get the price drop, and I know some of you guys are freaking out thinking, I can't afford that, but I want you to stop and remember something, right? And I anchor back to the story I told earlier. You guys remember the rich dad, poor dad story? Okay? You don't want to think like a broke person. You got to think like a rich person, okay? That's the difference in being successful. I know some of you guys, this seems too expensive. It seems like you can't afford that yet, okay? So think, how can you afford that? If you change that, it's going to change everything for you. Boom, anchor it back. Okay? Now, if I try to do that in the middle of the close, it's hard because it gets clunky and the person's trying to sell me. But if I tell it in the story earlier, all the work's been done here. Subconscious mind's cool, and by the time we get there, if the subconscious mind doesn't remember, it tries to grab an old story, that's why I'll anchor back. And like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, that story is really cool, and it puts it back in there. Okay? We call it tying back. So we tell stories earlier, we tie back as helping subconscious mind to grab the right story and replace the wrong one. Okay? There's rich dad, poor dad close. Is that a good one? Can you guys all use that one? Okay. Here's another one. This is one. People are like, oh, I can't, so this one I use like in tandem a lot of time with the rich dad, poor dad close. So I just told them like to think, how can I afford that? And then a lot of people get stuck like, I don't know how. They get stuck, right? So I'm like, okay, let me show you. Okay. So this one's called the how can I afford that close. I'm gonna jump back into Russell character and do it. Okay, ready? Russell character. Okay. I know a lot of you guys are looking at this price, you're like, oh, how can I afford that? Like, it's too expensive, right? Some of you guys are even messaging in chat right now, like, hey, can we, do you finance this? Do you do payment plans? And reality is I don't do payment plans because I'm not a bank. I don't understand that. But I have got good news for you. I remember the very first time I needed to invest in the coaching program. I didn't have the money for it either. It was a big stretch. I couldn't afford it. So what's crazy about this is I actually contacted the product owner. I asked the same question you guys are asking. I'm like, hey, can you finance this for me? And what's crazy is the person wrote back. When they first said this, I was a little offended, but then I realized they were right. They wrote back and they said, hey, Russell, sorry, we don't finance it for you, but there's a company we'll finance it for you. You may have heard of them before. It's called Visa or MasterCard. And if you put it on that, they'll actually finance this for you. And I was like a little annoyed. And I said, okay, thanks, that doesn't really helpful. And then the person wrote back, and this really gave me the gold. What they told me was like, think about this. Let's say you buy this product and it's $10,000. What's the minimum monthly payment on a $10,000 credit card loan? I was like, I have no idea. So I Googled minimum monthly payment on a $10,000 credit card loan. And it's like $300 or $200, whatever it is. So the person came back and said, okay, so if you put $10,000 down, you buy this program for $10,000, right? You finance the entire thing, and then you got 30 full days before the first minimum monthly payment's due, right? So you got 30 days to go through the course, learn the stuff, practice it, implement it, and try to make your money back. Now in 30 days, if you don't make your money back, right, you have to pay the minimum monthly payment of $250, whatever it is. Do you have $250 you can pay for that? I'm like, oh yeah, I can pay $250. Cool, okay? So you pay $250, it just unlocked 30 more days. They have 30 more days to apply the system, practice, do all that kind of stuff, and in 30 more days, right? Now you've gone 30 days, you have 60 days. You think in 6 days you can make enough money to cover like $250 to cover your minimum monthly payment? I was like, yeah, I think hopefully in 60 days I'll make enough to cover my $250 payment. Cool. Now if you don't, are you gonna be in trouble, like financially, or are you able to cover the $250 payment? Like, well, I could cover it again. Cool. So if you cover it again, now it unlocks another 90 days. Now you're another 30 days. Now you're 30, 60, 90 days. You think in 90 days, by following the system to T, you can make at least $250 before the next minimum monthly payment's due? I was like, if I can't do that, then I probably shouldn't be in this business, right? Like exactly. Right? So Visa, MasterCard, finance, all you gotta worry about is the minimum monthly payment, and you're fine. Okay? And if you're following the system, following the process, eventually make enough money where like, it doesn't matter. You just pay the whole thing off in one fell swoop because you do it once and you get the money back and then you're fine. But for right now, don't stress about the $10,000 to $25,000, right? All you gotta stress about is the minimum monthly payment, and Visa, MasterCard will finance the entire thing for you, which is crazy. Boom. Let's go. Yeah. Okay. You guys getting this? Do you like this? Okay, this is one of my favorite stories. This is one, I started getting this when I first started teaching business to people, and it was funny because like, I would talk about this thing, if you buy the thing, it's gonna help make a bunch of money, and people kept asking me, if this works so good, why don't you let me do it, and then when I make money, then I'll pay you back, right? Have you guys ever heard that from your clients before? Okay, or like, if you really think this is gonna save my marriage, you really think this is like, let me do it first, and if it works, I'll pay you, otherwise I won't. And I always hated that, and I was like, God, they have a good point, why don't I just give it to them for free, you know? And then all of a sudden I remembered a story, and this is the reason, and a lot of times, by the way, for you guys, when you're trying to find like, what are these stories you're gonna tell, a lot of times, it's probably the story of the experience that happened to you that gave you the correct belief, which is why you're successful, right? So for me, I'm like, why have I never asked that? And all of a sudden I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, because my coach, Mark Schultz, okay? And so I'm gonna jump into character and do the Mark Schultz close, boom, okay? A lot of you guys right now are asking like, if this works so good, Russell, why don't you pay it for it after it actually works, okay? Now, I want to tell you guys a really quick story about my coach, Mark Schultz. How many of you guys have heard of Mark Schultz before? He was an Olympic champ, a UFC champ. If you ever watched Foxcatcher, Channing Tatum, did I say it right? I never say his name. Did I say it right? That's the first time in my life I've said his name right. I say it wrong every time. Anyway, Channing Tatum, I said it wrong now. He played my coach, Coach Schultz, in the movie Foxcatcher. Like, it's insane. So this is my Coach Schultz right here, strongest, scariest guy in the entire world. I remember the very first week I went to BYU to wrestle for him. He was my coach, like an Olympic champ. I was so excited to meet Olympic champ, let alone he's my coach. So first week, we're working out, we do all sorts of stuff. I remember that weekend, we're sitting in our dorms, my roommate and I, and all of a sudden, we're sitting there like a Friday night, Saturday night, all of a sudden, knock on the door. I open the door, and there's Coach Schultz. I was like, what is happening? There's an Olympic champ at my door. And he's holding a VHS tape. And he walks in the door, and he's like, hey, Brunson, here's this tape. And I pull it up, and it says, Total Violence by Mark Schultz. I'm like, what's this? He's like, it's me doing all my best moves. He's like, if you watch this every day, it'll change your life. You'll become a better wrestler. I'm like, cool. He's like, go grab your wallet. I'm like, what? He's like, go grab your wallet. Like, what? But at the same time, I was like, it's Coach Schultz, Olympic champ. This is him in UFC. He fought in the UFC with like 8 hours of notice. Like the guy who was supposed to fight this guy broke his hand, and they're like, hey, Coach Schultz had never done UFC, never fought jiu-jitsu. He was just a training partner for the guy, so he happened to be at the hotel. And they're like, hey, Coach, you want to fight live on UFC tomorrow? He's like, I've never fought before. They're like, well, do you want to? He's like, I'm an Olympic champ. If I get beat up, like there's a lot online. They're like, yeah, do you want to do it? And he's like, yep, I'm in it. So Coach Schultz, who's never done a fight, walks out. This guy's like one of the best in the world. And Coach Schultz, if you watch UFC Fun 9, you can watch the match. Coach Schultz picks him up, slams, and beats the crap out of him over and over. He destroys the guy, right? So this is the guy at the door asking me for my wallet. And I'm like, yeah, hold on. So I go over, grab my wallet, bring it back to Coach Schultz, kind of confused. He opens it up, takes all the money out of the wallet, folds it up, puts it in his pocket, hands me back an empty wallet. It's like, Coach, what are you doing? He's like, I'm teaching you a lesson right now that will change your life. I'm like, okay, what's the lesson? Like, don't give your wallet to guys like this. And he's like, no. He's like, if I just give you this videotape, you're never going to watch it. He's like, now you've invested everything you own in it. He's like, because of that, you're going to respect it, and you're going to actually use it, you're going to watch it over and over and over again. Because you're paying, you're going to pay attention. And then he left.
And sure enough, I'd spent every penny I had on this tape, and so I put it in the video thing, and I started watching it. I watched it over and over and over, and because of that, I became a better wrestler. If he'd just given it to me, I would have never done anything with it. In fact, it's crazy. I do events all the time. Sometimes I invite my friends and my family to come to the events. Sometimes the big ones, people pay $250,000 a year to be in a room with me, and I'll invite my friends to come and sit in the events, and they're so excited. And what's crazy about it, 100% of my friends who have I let come into the room for free, 100% of them have never made $1 online. Yet the people who come and they pay, 100% of them do make money online. It's insane. So those who pay attention. I learned it from Coach Schultz, so I could give it to you, but if I do, it's not gonna help you at all. You're not gonna be successful. You need to invest in yourself if you wanna be successful. Boom. Okay.
Okay, was that fun for you guys to see those? Anyway, I had another one I want to show you guys. This is one from Myron Golden. Obviously, I've told you guys a lot of stories about Myron, but Myron's one of the best stage sellers on the history of the planet that I've ever seen ever. And so I've had him speak a lot of Funnel Hacking Lives and have him tell stories during Funnel Hacking Live to break false beliefs so that in the future they'll be willing to buy from me, and also I can help them to have success with the thing they bought from me. And so one of my favorites was this presentation, the story he did called The 2 Greatest Expenses, and it's one of the coolest copy-paste closes you can plug into a presentation. How many of you want to see Myron Golden do the 2 greatest expenses? If you do, type in 2 in the comments, TWO, TWO, if you want to see this one. Okay. This is one of the greatest, Myron's one of the greatest storytellers of all time. Check out one of his copy-paste closes called The 2 Greatest Expenses.
In the educational system, that we never learn the most important math. You know what I mean? We learn how to do decimals and fractions and algebra. How many of you have used algebra in your adult life? Okay, a couple of you, right? How many of you don't use algebra in your adult life at all? Exactly. But you had to learn it. Why didn't they teach us the rule of 72 in school, in high school, in elementary school? We could have understood it in the 5th grade, but why didn't they teach us the rule of 72? Because the objective of education is not learning. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So I'm gonna ask you a question. I want everybody to get a pen and paper out. I want you to write down the answer to this question I'm about to ask you. Everybody ready? Say, I'm ready. Okay, so write it down. Here's the question. I want you to write down your answer. Right now, in your life, what are the 2 most expensive things you pay for? I want you to write them down. Don't put 10 things on the list. Don't put 80 things on the list. 2. How many?
2.
Talk to me, y'all. How many?
2.
2. Put 2 things on the list. Y'all got them? Okay, how many had your house on there? Okay, I figured it'd be a couple of you. How many of you have your car on there? Student loans? Okay, this is my favorite. How many of y'all have children on there? Okay, I do that. Okay, so none of those are your biggest expenses. I'm gonna tell you what your 2 biggest expenses are. Everybody ready? So your 2 biggest expenses are, okay, I'm gonna cheat, Russell. I'm gonna tell them number 2 first. The second biggest expense you have in your life is taxes. You say, the taxes aren't that bad. Oh yeah, they are. So if you're a W-2 wage earner, you're paying 51% of every dollar you make in taxes. Because I want you to think about it. That's $5. That's 51 cents out of every dollar. It's $5, 10 cents out of every $10. That's $51 out of every $100. That's $5,100. That's $510 out of every 1,000, $5,100 out of every 10,000, $51,000 out of every 100,000. That's $510,000 out of every $1 million you make, you're giving to the government. You say, no, I'm in a 22% tax bracket. See, but that's why it's a sneak attack. See, they tax you when you earn it. That's called what? Income tax. They tax you when you buy something. That's called what? Sales tax. See, you didn't even know you just got double taxed on the same money. They tax you if you sell the thing for more than you bought it for. That's called capital gains tax. They tax you while you own it. That's called property tax. And God forbid that you should die, because they're really going to tax you then. Right? So you're paying 51% in taxes. So how many of you would like to reduce the amount you pay in taxes, or at least have a bigger 49% left over? Say yes. Yeah. Okay, that's why you deserve to get it to $10 million. Now I'm going to tell you your biggest expense. But before I do, I want to ask a question. Is there anybody in the audience that can bake a chocolate cake? Okay, ma'am, what is your name? What is it? Jody? Jodine. Hey, Jodine, how are you? I'm better now that you're talking to me. This is so cool. Okay, anyway, Joe Dean, let me ask you a question. Are your chocolate cakes good? They're really good, huh? Oh, snap. This is going to be great. So your chocolate cakes are good. Do you believe that you could teach me to bake a chocolate cake? Okay, so yes? Okay. So does it make sense to everybody in this room that one intelligent person can teach another intelligent person something they know how to do? If that makes sense to you, shout yes. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure I was in the right room. How many of y'all would agree that you're intelligent? Say yes. Okay, how many of y'all would agree that Russell's intelligent? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what your biggest expense is. The biggest expense in your life is ignorance about how to make $10 million. No, let's don't laugh at this one. I mean, it may sound funny, but it's really not funny. It's like, this is time to come get your family and take them to safety. Y'all ready? I want you to write down, I want everybody to write down on your sheet of paper how much money you made last year. Whatever the number is, I don't care what it is. Let's assume that you're a relatively high income earner in the United States of America, and let's say last year you made $80,000, right? So you made $80,000, and let's say that for some reason you're not as good as the other people and all the other stories you tell yourself, and let's say, I don't know, you don't have as much time, and let's say Russell can't get you to 10 million. Let's say he can only get 10% that far and you get to $1 million, right? So if Russell can only get you to $1 million, what we're gonna do is we're gonna write 1 million up here, right? And we're gonna subtract 80,000. So we're gonna end up with how much? That's right, $920,000. Now that is your largest expense. That's how much you, everybody say me, that's how much you paid life last year for not knowing how to make $1 million. If you add the other zero, which there's no doubt in my mind Russell can get me there. If you add the other zero, it's $9,980,000 you paid life last year for not knowing how to make 10 million. So here's the question is not, do you have $18,000? The question is not, do you have $1,800? The question is not, or do you have time? The question is not, can you afford it? The question is not, will my wife let me do it? Will my husband let me do it? Here's the only question you have to answer. Everybody ready? Say, I'm ready. Do I want to pay life $980,000 or $920,000 or $9,920,000 next year like I did last year? If your answer is no, I don't want to pay that anymore, don't say anything. If you're not on that cruise with us already, get up from your seat right now and go get your application filled out. Stop paying the biggest expense of all, ignorance. It's your turn to win.
Okay, do you guys love that from Myron? How cool is that? The two greatest expenses, one of the greatest stories / breaking false beliefs things I have ever seen in my life. And it's true, by the way, which makes it even better. It's really, really cool. Okay, so I have a question for you guys right now. How many of you guys think that I've told you any stories in the past couple hours with the core goal to rewrite false beliefs that are in your subconscious mind so that you'll eventually buy something from me in the near future? Oh, what? I'm gonna go back. Actually, I pulled some slides from earlier today. I'm gonna show a couple of these slides, and I want you to think, like, what was the false belief that Russell was trying to rewrite inside of my mind by telling me the story? Okay, here's the first one right here. Remember I showed you guys the video of me on stage my very first time, how awkward it was, how weird I was? What was the false belief you think you were probably having, and the reason why I wanted to show that? Well, I know for a lot of you guys, you're like, man, I could never do what Russell's doing. False belief, right? Let me tell you a story about when I did it, how bad I was. You see that, you're like, whoa. If Russell could do that, I could actually do it, right? False belief, rewrote it by telling the story and showing us video footage of the very first time I spoke, okay? Here's another one, leverage and speed. A lot of you guys do not believe it's possible to make $1 million next year or next month, right? So like, how do I break that false belief? I want you guys to understand, like if I want you in the future to invest with me, like I got to convince you that what we're talking about is possible, right? So I had Myron, the podcast clip from Myron, talking about how wealth denotes speed, how you can make $1 million in 40 years, 25 grand a year. You're not rich, but if you do it in a year or a month or a week or a day, you are rich, right? So I tried to tell that story to rewrite this false belief, like, wow, if I want to be successful, I do have to actually get rich quick. Like that's the way it works, right? Wealth denotes speed. Okay, so there's a false belief, and there was a story we told. So how about this one? Offers to change my life. I told the story about Mark Joyner and about Dan Kennedy, right? I shared that because these are offers I could not afford, but I figured out how to get the money for those things, and then by doing it, it changed my life, right? Both of these times. So I told both those stories, right? I told those because a lot of you guys are in the future, you're like, I can't afford an offer, but you're gonna tie back this, like, wow, Russell couldn't afford an offer either, right? But because he did, it changed his life. Maybe I should figure out how to afford this offer so I can change my life. Okay? Quicker creative framework. Some of you guys are like, there's no way creative framework. I'm not a framework creator. I'm not creative, Russell. And I showed these Tom Billy ones of like, here's how we do sleep habits, lessons from the Matrix, Thanksgiving dinner. All of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what creative framework is? I could do that. That's easy, right? Rewrote the false belief by sharing a story. This one from Paul McCartney and John Lennon, right? Write myself a swimming pool. False belief that you guys have in the future is like, I can't afford to buy this thing Russell's trying to sell me, right? I want you to understand, like, no, like you can write yourself a swimming pool, figure out an offer, give it to the audience, and they'll pay for the thing you're trying to invest in, right? So I told those stories to help break that false belief, okay? And there were more, by the way, but hopefully that helps you guys see like the method to the madness, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, right? I'm speaking to you consciously, I'm sharing stories, having a good time, but I'm really bypassing that to go speak to your subconscious mind, to the elephant, to rewrite these false beliefs. So when we get to the spot where I'm gonna make you an offer, you're not gonna be having this hesitation and things holding you back. You'll be able to be like, yes, I wanna do that, and be able to move forward, okay? All right, paradigm shift number 3. You can do this even if you're not charismatic like Russell and you don't think you have a story to share. How many of you guys, that's what you're thinking right now? That's the false belief you have. Like, well, that's cool, but I'm not Russell. I'm not charismatic. I don't have a story to tell. Okay, first off, those are all false beliefs. And so I decided to bring someone on stage to help you to overcome those false beliefs, to smash them, to destroy them, so you can move forward, so you can be successful. And the special guest I have in the audience today is someone you've already heard from a couple times, but she's amazing. So with that said, let's put our hands together for McCall Jones. Come on down.
Yay!
Welcome back.
Thanks so much.
There you go.
Okay, my friends, let's do this. It is time for an intervention. I first want you to remember that I am your we can do hard things fairy godmother. Now, at this point, we know that epiphany bridges are incredibly powerful, right? We know that an epiphany bridge was the engine that led Russell to making billions of dollars, and that has helped his clients make billions more. But usually at this point, this may be you, when people hear, I need to tell my story, the first thing they think is, I do not have a story. Or they think, too many stories, which one am I supposed to choose? Or some people, you may be one of these people, also think, okay, pretty confident, I know which story to choose, but I'm not a storyteller like Russell. I don't want to be boring, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be inauthentic, and getting ignored or having people not like me feels worse than having no story at all, right? If you are feeling one of these things, okay, maybe you don't have to write it in the chat, but just like blink really hard at me, like maybe this is me, right? I'm seeing some blinking, right? You may be thinking this. Do not fear. We can solve both of these problems with one single solution, and it is a solution that I have been using since literally day one of my business. Can I show you the solution? If so, write, yeah, in the chat. Why? Hey, yeah. Incredible. Now, I want to tell you how I started charisma hacking. Now, I spent my entire life either on a stage or in front of a camera. I started my professional singing career at age 6. I sang in front of my first crowd of 20,000 people when I was 8, my first crowd of 35,000 when I was 11. I did movies in high school, including Disney's High School Musical 2, yes, the Sharpette. Oh. And all through my 20s, I taught performers how to be on stage, right? Voice lessons, acting lessons, all these things. And then 2020 came. 2020 came, my sister-in-law, Catherine, gets asked to speak at like this website builder convention called Funnel Hacking Live. And I was like, I know nothing about that. And I know nothing about internet marketing, but I really care about Catherine. And I know that this is a really big deal to her. So I just go to this conference to support Catherine. Spoiler alert, Funnel Hacking Live was incredible. So I go to Funnel Hacking Live and I sit next to this woman, day one. Remember, I know nothing about internet marketing or really anything that's happening. I sit next to this woman and she starts talking to me. And she tells me how she just spent her last $25,000 on this agency to help her with her webinar and her Facebook ads. But there was a huge problem. Nobody was clicking on the Facebook ads. And nobody was staying long enough in her webinar to even hear the pitch. She goes on to say, I am so fun in real life, but I am so awkward on video. If you were thinking this, blink hard, right? She's like, I'm running out of money, I'm running out of time, and I don't know what to do. After she had spent all of this money, everyone was leaving. Now, in this moment, I'm thinking to myself, I think I could help her, But at the same time, I'm thinking, who am I? Remember, I know nothing about internet marketing. What am I gonna do? Tap her on the shoulder? So I decide to sit on my hands. About 10 minutes later, the conference starts, and this guy named Russell Brunson gets on stage and he says this. This completely changed my life. He says, if you have something that's going to change someone's life, it's your moral responsibility to give it to them. In this moment, I am struck by lightning and I realize I have made a mistake. So I wait until the next break and I grab this woman's arm with a crazy look in my eye and I say, I can help you and I will do it for free. She agrees, and she decides to send me these videos that haven't been working. Now, we get home from this conference, and 4 calls later, 4 calls, something magical happens. She comes alive on video. Strangers were finally able to see the version of her that previously only her very close friends and family could see. All of a sudden, connecting became so easy, when before she felt like, oh, maybe this is so boring. After she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so exciting. She was playful. Now, something else happened. After these 4 calls, we 12x'd her click-through rate on her Facebook ads, and we 3x'd her sales. We 3x'd the conversion rate at the end of her webinar. Now, in that moment, charisma hacking was born. But why did it work? Because remember, 4 calls before, I didn't know what a conversion rate was. I was like, we 3x'd what? Oh, that sounds like a good thing. I didn't know what a funnel was. But what I realized is, after I watched Brooke's videos, I saw that even though she was doing webinars instead of concerts, she was facing the exact same problems that I had faced and fixed my entire life growing up as an entertainer, and the exact same problems that I had helped fix for thousands of entertainers. This problem was that she wasn't being herself. It was repelling people away from her, and in turn, it was sabotaging her sales. Now, in this moment, what I realized and what I've proven with my business over and over and over and over and over again since then is that people like people who are themselves. And people want to buy from people who are themselves. So I want to teach you what I taught Brooke and what I have taught thousands of clients to do. Yes, how to be uncopyable, how to be genuine, how to choose the right stories, how to use the right details, and the secret to being charismatic. Can I show you? Give me a yes in the chat. That's with several A's. Yes. Incredible. Now, the first thing that we have to understand is you have to understand that we are not selling a product during our sales presentation. We are selling belief. During your one-to-many sales presentation, you must make them believe one thing if you want them to buy. This one thing is that your offer is the only way that they're going to get what they want, right? That what you are offering them is the only path to success. Now, we change that one belief, right? That one thing that we have to knock over and say, okay, believe this thing. We change that belief by making our customers feel 4 things. Yeah, we change the belief with these emotions. If you can get your customer to believe these 4 things, they will believe that your offer is the only way. They will buy whatever you're selling, and then they will thank you for selling it to them. These 4 things they need to feel are, I need this, I want this, I can do this, and this is valuable. Now, every single thing that we do in our one-to-many sales presentation must drive people to one of those emotions. The tool that we have to change emotion and create belief is something you may have heard of, the Epiphany Bridge, if you know this right. Ding! Jeff, for the Epiphany, the light bulb. Ding! Incredible. Now, here's the secret sauce. The Epiphany Bridge that Russell showed you looks like this. We are not going to make it look like that anymore. Instead, we are going to charismify the Epiphany Bridge. It's now going to look like this, because what framework doesn't need a dinosaur? Now, if you tell your Epiphany Bridge this way, I promise you it is impossible to be boring. It's impossible to be pushy or salesy or inauthentic. The steps are: fear the dinosaur, visualize the beach, baby-proof the bridge. Because remember, the emotions we have to get them to feel are, I need this, I want this, I can do this, and then this is valuable, mystery coming later. So let's start with I need this. I want you guys to write in the chat, I need this. Yeah, I need this. This is fear the dinosaur with the arms. Now, the first emotion that we need people to feel in order to buy is I need this. They very first have to say, whoa, yeah, I feel that pain. Oh my gosh, yeah, I have that problem. Now, the reason why this must come first is because if they don't fear the dinosaur, there's no reason for them to cross the bridge. And if they think that you don't see the dinosaur, they are never going to think that you will save them from it. What that means is they have to see their pain very clearly, and they have to know that you see their pain very clearly. Now, one of my very favorite authors, his name is Ramit Sethi, he said it this one, I thought it was so smart. He said, if you can describe the problem better than they can, they will assume that you have the solution. So in order for this to work, we have to know our customer's pain very deeply. We have to know our customer best. Now, if you want your customers to feel like you're reading their minds, the best way to do it is the BEST framework. Now, when they are in pain, we have to know what was their behavior. When they were in pain, what's their emotions, situation, and thoughts. So I'm gonna give you an example. Behavior is when they were in pain, what'd they do, right? Emotions is when they were in pain, what'd they feel? Situation is when they were in pain, what was happening? Maybe even what caused it. And thoughts is when they were in pain, what were they thinking? I'm gonna give you a couple examples just to solidify this. If you're with me, write best in the chat, best. Incredible. Now, here's the charisma hacking example. So when somebody's in pain in charisma hacking, what did they do? Maybe this would look like posting 3 times a day on social media. When they were in pain, what did they feel? Oh, frustrated, really overwhelmed, right? When a charisma hacking client is in pain, the situation is maybe they were getting no views. Maybe nobody was paying attention to them, and maybe they had really low social media engagement. And then when they were in pain, what were they thinking? Oh, nobody likes my videos. What's wrong with me? I feel so cringy. Yeah, now let's do the selling online example. If you're still with me, write yep in the chat. Yep. Incredible. So selling online example, when somebody's in pain, what did they do? Maybe they tried a webinar by themselves and they chickened out. When they were in pain, what did they feel, right? Maybe they were nervous about pitching. Maybe they were scared that no one would show, right? When they were in pain, what was happening? Maybe they did a webinar, nobody bought, or maybe nobody even showed up, right? And when they were in pain, what did they think? I know how to educate, but not how to sell, or I can't do this, I'm not like Russell. I'm gonna give you one more example. We're gonna click through them really quickly. Live coaching example. Pain, what'd they do? Laid in bed till 3. Pain, what'd they feel? Sad, depressed. Pain, situation, what happened? Dog, dead, woof. Pain, what did they think? This will never get better and everything is hard. Now, the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to this is people get so excited about their product that they skip the pain. They minimize the pain. They speed through the story, and then the story feels like this. Hey, look at me, buy my thing. It feels salesy. It feels pushy. It feels awkward. It feels aggressive. It feels self-centered, right? This kills me because it is literally so easy to fix. We just have 2 steps, right, to actually make your story work, right? So step 1, when have you been in the same pain as your customers? And then step 2, most important, fill the details of your story with their pain, B-E-S-T. Their language, their intensity, so it's your story, but it's their words. Yeah, if you're with me, I want you to write word in the chat because it has double meanings. Word is also like woot woot. Now, I'm gonna give you a really bad example of this. Yeah, let me show you how to do this the wrong way. I want you to imagine that Russell got on stage, and as he's telling you a story, this is what the story sounds like. I built a process that made me millions of dollars. Let me show you how. Boring, right? Or if he said, okay, I kind of needed the money, so I built a process that made me millions. Let me show you how. Boring, right? Now, let me show you the right way to do it, right? I want you to watch this video. It's about 90 seconds long, but the entire thing is filled with Russell describing pain. Yeah, I want you to look out for those B-E-S-T things and say like, oh my gosh, when did I see myself, right? When did I see my own pain in exactly what Russell was saying? If you're with me, right, yes, in the chat. Yeah, let's watch Russell do this right. He's gonna make us fear the dinosaur. Here we go.
Before I wrote books, before ClickFunnels, before 2 Comma Club awards, before any of this craziness, this was me. Okay, this was me about 20 years ago. Actually, not even 20 years ago. My wife and I just celebrated our 18-year anniversary. So this is maybe 17 years ago. We just been married a year, and we were struggling, okay? I remember this. I remember, and I know a lot of you guys are in this spot right now in your life, okay, where you're struggling. And this is my wife and I. This was kind of a joke. We got pictures of us cutting up our credit cards, but it was because we had no more credit. We had no money to pay the credit. My wife was working full-time job. I was wrestling. We didn't have any money, and I was trying to figure out this internet thing. And I'm staying up every single night watching videos, listening listening to teleseminars, reading books, reading blog posts and forum posts, like trying to figure out this game. Okay. And I remember this. I remember the fear. I remember being scared. I remember being like unsure of myself. I remember being awkward. I mean, look at this kid. Like if I could go back 18 years ago and be like, dude, just so you know, someday you have a chance to hang out with thousands of entrepreneurs who are going to like love all the stuff you've been geeking out about. Someday someone's going to care. Because back then nobody did, right? I believed in it. I was excited. So I kept trying to try and figure these things out. But I remember being in the spot, and I know some of you guys are in the spot right now. You're stressed out. You're overwhelmed. You have debt and problem, all sorts of things. I remember that. Okay, I've been there. But it was me seeing this vision, like what's possible, that got me to move. And I'm hoping that over the next 3 days, you guys see the vision and you see the path step by step, exactly what you need to do to get your goals.
Now, do you see how that story becomes so much more powerful because you can actually feel the pain? If you saw it and you felt it, I want you to write, I felt it in the chat. Yeah, I felt it, right? Guys, when you do this, right, it is impossible to be pushy or salesy, right? Because it is impossible to be salesy and empathetic at the same time. They can't coexist, right? And at this point, you don't have to worry about saying, or what am I supposed to do with my hands, or your body language. All you have to know is your shared pain with your customer, and then you just have to genuinely care. If you genuinely care about your customers, I want you to write, I care in the chat, right? If you do, you're already there. Now you just need the details with BEST, right? The story is totally gonna carry you from there. Yeah, so if you're with me so far, I want you to write dino in the chat, dino, because at this point we've described the pain better than they can, right? They've said, yes, I feel that pain. Yes, I have that problem. They finally feel, oh, I need this. So now that they fear the dinosaur, now we need them to visualize the beach, right? The next feeling that we need them to have, remember, to break or to knock down that one big belief of like, okay, this is the only way. The next emotion they have to feel is, I want this. But when we say I want this doesn't mean I want this product. We don't even mention the product until we get to step 4. Because people don't buy products, they buy results. I want you guys to write results in the chat. Yeah, results. I love it because people don't want to buy the plane ticket. They want the beach, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks to themselves, you know what I want more than anything? The selling online event. No. They think to themselves, you know what I want more than anything? Freedom from my job. I want more customers. I want to be able to do what I'm called to do. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what I want more than anything? Charisma hacking. Wouldn't that be cool though, right? Instead, they think, I want to be authentically myself. I want people to listen to me. Now, in order to do this, we just have to answer one question. What's the end result that your customers actually want? And then we just have to know our customers' desires deeply. Once again, we have to know our customers best. Yeah, I want you to write best in the chat. We have to know our customers best. So when it comes to what they want, what behavior, emotion, situation, and thoughts describe what they want. So behavior, what do they want to be able to do? Emotions, what do they want to feel? Right? Situation, what do they want to happen? And thoughts, what do they want to think? So let's do an example. Yeah, let's do weight loss. So we answer the one question, we say, okay, what is the result that they want? We're going to say the end result in this case is lose 50 pounds. Yeah, so first let's talk about the behavior. What do they want to be able to do? Maybe it's run 5 miles without stopping. Right? Okay, now, what do they want to feel? Maybe it's confident and sexy and loved and admired. Right? Now, let's say, okay, what do they actually want to happen? Yeah, they want to lose 50 pounds, but could we go further than that? Maybe they also want to fit into their high school jeans, right? And what do they actually want to think? Maybe it's, I've never had so much energy. Now, the biggest mistake that people make, I want you to write mistake in the chat. The biggest mistake that people make here is they minimize the beach. They try to downplay their success because they're afraid that they're gonna sound braggy. Maybe you have felt this. You don't have to write it in the chat, but blink really hard, right? Blink at me. Yes. Maybe you have thought, oh my gosh, okay, but I don't wanna sound braggy. Here's a bad example. Let me show you how you do this wrong, right? I want you to imagine Russell got on this stage and he said, I'm pretty good at one-to-many selling. We'd be like, okay, bye, leave Zoom, right? We wouldn't do that. Or he wouldn't do that, right? Let me show you how he did this right. He gets on stage and he shows you the slides and he's like, oh, also, by the way, I set a world record for sales, right? He's like, I sold $1 gajillion and like 1 out of every 2 people, right, bought all my things, right? And then he's like, oh, and also 50,000 people registered for this webinar while I was in Lake Powell. towel. And we're like, oh my gosh, right? He didn't minimize the success. He didn't minimize that beach. Now, when you do this right, I promise you it is impossible to be inauthentic or fake or cringy or boring, because you can't be inauthentic and genuinely excited at the same time. They can't coexist. I want to show you the reason why that worked, right? Why all of a sudden his stories became so much more exciting, right? We could feel it. It's because you can feel that Russell wants you to have the exact same success that he did. He wants you to earn these awards and also these awards and also these awards, right? Russell wants you to have this success. Now, you don't need Russell level energy in order to be able to do this. Yeah, if you want one of those awards, I want you to write, duh, in the chat, duh, right? You can make your little pose on the camera of like, are you this one? Are you this one? Right? I was this one. It was incredible. Yeah, now you don't need Russell level energy in order for this to work. All you need is to be genuinely excited about the outcome that you're promising. Because if you're excited about it, they will be excited about it. Your story will carry you from there. Yeah? All you have to do is you have to fill the details of your story with their desire, B-E-S-T. Use their language and their intensity. Once again, it's your story, but it's their words. Yeah, so we fear the dinosaur if so right. In the chat, yes? They've said, oh my gosh, I have that pain. Whoa, yeah, I have that problem. Check. Then they say, oh yeah, I need this. Then we have them visualize the beach. If so right, tan in the chat. Why not, right? All of a sudden they're thinking to themselves, okay, I want this. The next thing that they have to feel is, I can do this. Guys, it's time to baby-proof the bridge. Yeah, you see me add those guardrails, look this. Bridge, unsafe. All of a sudden, handrails, we're baby-proofing the bridge. Yeah, if you're with me, right, baby, in the chat. Yeah, now, people will not buy if they think they won't succeed. They won't. We have to show them that taking the leap and crossing the bridge is something that they can do. Yeah, we do this by showing our similar struggles. Yeah, I want you guys to write SS in the chat. SS. Amazing. Now, the biggest mistake that people make is that they think that the most important part of their story, of their epiphany bridge, is the after, when it's not, right? Let me show you why. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of another person. This is Jerry, our very handsome friend. Jerry, he wants to learn how to swim, but Jerry, he can't swim. And Jerry thinks the reason why he can't swim is that he has skinny legs. Now, if you were to tell your story to Jerry and all you say is that, Jerry, listen, before I couldn't swim and now I'm as fast as an Olympic sprinter, you know what Jerry's gonna think? Good for you, but I can't do that, right? But if Jerry heard this, if he said, okay, now, Jerry, I couldn't swim and I didn't take swim lessons because I thought there's no way I could succeed. I had skinny legs. But guess what, Jerry? Now I'm as fast as an Olympian. All of a sudden, Jerry's going to think, oh, skinny legs, right? He's gonna think, I am just like you. If you can do it, then I can do it. If that makes sense, I want you to write Jerry in the chat. Jerry, I was gonna have you write Jerry skinny legs, but it would take too long. Now, the key here is they must resonate with the struggle to see themselves in the success. Yeah, I'm gonna say that again because it's so important. They must resonate with the struggle to see themselves in the success. Yeah, if you're with me, write woot woot in the chat. Woot woot. Yes, because without this step, your customer will believe that you can do it, but they're not gonna believe that they can do it. Yeah, now, see how Russell does this so perfectly. Instead of saying, guys, I wasn't good at speaking, but now I speak all the time, right? You're like, all right, cool. Instead, he shows us this, right? He frames out the struggles. He's like, oh my gosh, I was terrified. I was introverted. I didn't know how to dress. He goes through the list of things. And then he says, tell me if you remember this in the chat, if you have ever made a selfie video on your phone, or he's like, has anybody ever made that? And all of us are like, yeah, I do those all the time. He's like, you're already better than I was when I started. Right? If all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that totally made me feel like I could do it, I want you to write, yeah, in the chat. Try to spell it that way. Yeah. Now, when you do this right, I promise you it is impossible to be boring because you can't be boring and brutally honest at the same time. They can't coexist. Now, I'm going to tell you, you don't need crazy dramatic details to do this. You just have to have a transformation that you're proud of. You have to have struggles that you push through. If any of you have a struggle that you have pushed through, I just want you to write yes in the chat. And if you're not writing yes, you're a liar. Yeah, just write yes in the chat because the story is going to carry you from there. I want you to think to yourself, okay, what stories do you have of any time that you had an excuse and you acted anyway? Yeah, if you can think of at least one, I want you to write the number 1 in the chat. Just any story of when you had an excuse and you acted anyway. Because then what you're going to do is you are going to fill the details of your story with their excuses. Yeah, if you're with me, right? Yeah, in the chat. We got a lot of yes. We got a lot of yes. I love it. Now, if you tell your epiphany bridge this way, I promise you it's impossible to be boring. It's impossible to be pushy or salesy or inauthentic because now we've made them fear the dinosaur. If you were with me on that, right? Roar in the chat. Roar. Then we visualize the beach. If you remember that, right? Towel. Sure, in the chat. And then we baby-proofed the bridge. If you remember that right, baby, in the chat, right? We made them feel like I need this, I want this, and I can do this. Yeah, now, at the beginning of this presentation, we had 2 big fears. The first one was, I don't have a story. But now, do you see that you not only have a story to share, but with BEST and with Fear the Dinosaur, and with Visualize the Island, with Baby-Proof the Bridge, now you have an uncopyable story. If you believe this, write uncopyable in the chat. Yeah, uncopyable. At this point, you have an uncopyable story that you know will be amazing at getting people to have major breakthroughs. Yeah, if we smash that fear, I want you to write smash in the chat. Smash. Amazing. Now, the second fear that we had is, I'm not charismatic like Russell, right? Oh my gosh, what if I can't do this? I'm not like him. But do you see how now you don't have to worry about the ums and the being polished and the perfect words because it's impossible to be boring when you are thrilled about someone's success. It's impossible to be pushy when you're frustrated about the dinosaurs that they're actually facing. And it's impossible to be inauthentic when you're excited about their beach. Now you may be thinking, okay, I might be able to tell this story, but where do I put this in my one-to-many sales presentation, right? Where does it actually go? Guys, do not fear, because spoiler alert, Russell is going to be revealing it later today. Yeah, later today. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you step number 4 so we can do it all together. Thank you so much for having me. At the end, I just want you to write RAR one more time for me in the chat. Perfect. RAR. Thank you so much. I will see you later. Goodbye, goodbye.